Go.
Hello YouTube again, this is Luke coming at you with another deck profile. I have been recording a fair few deck profiles today, however I don't mind. I've got a load of decks I want to show you guys, you lovely card fighters out there. And this has very quickly become one of my favourite decks, despite the local controversy around this deck, considering I am now the only person who runs this deck in full. The other person at locals, it's not bad, it's not good, it's just not completed. I feel sorry for them. So I'm going to be helping them get this deck completed now that I have a deck built up that actually stands up to other mass decks like Unica and Bafsagara. It has stood up. I've played it against Bafsagara online. I have beaten Bafsagara as well. It's very good. When you get going, however, if you don't have the key pieces, you brick hard. It hurts. So this is Lianorn masks, as you could expect, given by the grade 3. So I'll get you guys started with the ride line. This is my own build. It's not too different. It's not absolutely horrendously different, but it's just something different, and judging by the plant tokens, I guess you guys can sort of figure out what's going to go on. However, they're the only plant tokens I will ever run in this deck because I don't need more than 2. So the grade 0, as always, basic Stoke grade 0. I just like to run the Roro one because Roro has a nice aesthetic to it, and because what the ride line is, I like to stick aesthetically. So grade 1 wise, grade 1 Roroa. So grade 1 Roroa is when you play, you call a single plant token to rearguard, and then obviously if you go second, you get to draw, and then you've got more attacks coming in. A bit more setup, it's nice. It's not bad to have a plant token on the field because you're saving cards in hand. And if you can keep these plant tokens on the field when you get to Lianorn, they're 5Ks, potentially 10Ks if you put Dragon Tree markers on the back row. Grade 2 wise, again, grade 2 Aurora. So grade 2 Aurora skill is kill a plant token, call 2. And they're the only plant tokens running the deck. That's it. That's it. Plant tokens are done with. I don't use any other skills when it comes to Roroa. I just use the grade 1 and 2 for the plant token rush early game because it's, well, a 10k Vanguard, a 10k column, potentially 20 if I get triggers. So, and if I'm really feeling lucky, I could just go 2 5k attackers, maybe.
Hope to get a trigger.
Hope to get a trigger.
Front trigger.
Front trigger, maybe. I don't run fronts in this deck, unfortunately, but there you go. So, you know, it's just a bit of a fun thing. But it's nice to have the extra column or the extra booster or 2 5Ks and just then sort of figure out what you want to do. Or you can just call them both to the back row and just sort of set up for Lianorn later. 2 5K boosters, job done, you're nice. So, you know, it helps.
And then they get targeted.
Precisely. So, grade 3, we have the set 6 version of Lianorn because
the good one.
Why would you run the trial deck one? The trial deck one is not horrible, but this one is just so much better because it has the exact same skill aside from gaining the triple drive. And its first skill, which is you counterblast 1 card, you draw 1 card, and then you choose a card from hand, you either discard it or call it to rearguard. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be calling it to rearguard because you want to fill your field up. However, its secondary skill is also the helpful one. If you know when you attack with Lianorn, make sure you don't boost it. When you attack with Lianorn, you choose 3 rearguards behind, you Soul Blast 1, discard a card from hand, and you boost with all 3 rearguards. So if you've got, say, a plant token, maybe 2, and an 8k booster, that is, what, 18k, plus another 5, 23k to the Vanguard, so your Vanguard's going to be swinging for 36, potentially more for Persona rides or triggers, so you get some really heavy numbers early game with this ride line.
And then end of turn just to choose 2 rear guards and stand it up.
Yep, so 9 times out of 10 when it goes to Lianorn, if you're playing a normal Lianorn, you always stand your back row left and right rear guards first. If you're playing the Masque, I will show you a different combo for that. So, moving away from the ride line and the token boys, we'll go into the main deck now. So, we're starting on grade 3s, as I always tend to do. So, I'm going to start with a bit of a controversial one first, and I only run 1 copy of the Masque of Hydreigon in this deck. I know a lot of decks run 2, and I might run the second if I decide to get a second copy. It's not cheap, it's not expensive, but it just depends on personal preference.
It's hard printing.
Yeah, and it just depends if I want to run a secondary copy. Because unlike my other mass decks, like Zorga for example, I don't need more than 1 copy because I don't need to Alchemagic it. Once I go into the Masque, I'm golden. So I play it, search top 5 for a dragon tree or a masque unit, and add it to my hand. Drop zone, I choose the masque unit if I haven't ridden it already, I ride it, and then if I haven't Persona Road, if my opponent's on grade 3 or greater, I activate Persona Ride. So it's just nice for the initial setup. Next grade 3, as expected, I run 4 copies of Lianorn Masque. Lianorn Masque is the different one. So again, like all masque units, it can't be ridden on top of a grade 3 without Lianorn in its name. So you could use the set 6 Lianorn, or you can use the trial deck Lianorn if you don't have a copy of this one, or if you want to run more copies of Lianorn in general, you're happy in any way. You can remove a copy of a card with Lianorn in its card name from your hand, soul, or drop. You choose a card, just a general card from your drop zone, and call it back to rearguard, and then you retire one of your opponent's rearguards. Using it only once in this deck is helpful, because 9 times out of 10 you're not going to be retiring cards, because you don't really need to, so you're fine. Its second skill is its best one. When this unit attacks, you boost it with 3 stud rearguards behind. And then after it attacks, you counterblast 1 and choose 2 of your rearguards and stand them. So this is where the combo comes in a little bit differently than normal Lianorn. So normal Lianorn, you attack with your Vanguard first, boost with the rearguard back row, and then you stand the left and right rearguards to give your rearguards a bigger attack. However, with Lianorn Masques, you can actually get multi-attack now, which is a lot better. So you go into Lianorn Masques, you attack with your two front row rearguards first. Then you use Lianorn Masque, you swing with the Vanguard, you use Lianorn Masque skill, you counterblast 1 after it's been boosted, and you stand your 2 front row rearguards. So you're getting 5 attacks in this deck, which is very, very helpful, especially with things like Persona Ride and triggers, and there are some absolutely fun combos in this deck you can do, which I enjoy doing myself, which is very, very, very hard pressure on your opponent. So on to the next grade 3, I'm running 3 copies of Resonance Dragon. Now Resonance Dragon is that card that I would happily trade out 1 copy of for a second copy of the Masque of Hydreigon. 3 copies is fine, 2 copies is just as fine. Either way, it's perfect. It's nice to have because it's the additional standing power for a rearguard that's attacked, if your rearguards have boosted more than 5 times. So normally you use Resonance Dragon when you're using the original Lianorn. However, you can use Resonance Dragon with Lianorn Masque. It just depends on your hand, your field, and if you're getting triggers. Otherwise, you're going to be making a bit of a difference. So it depends on what unit you have and depends what it is. Otherwise, it's nice to have for the 5k, because once you attack with it, if your rearguards have boosted 3 or more times this turn, it gains 5k, so it becomes an 18k hitter, which is also, again, very, very nice. So on to grade 2s. I'm not running too many grade 2s in this deck. Mostly it's grade 1s, but for grade 2s, I'm running 3 copies of Tideline Dragon. Now, Tideline Dragon is one I would happily run at a 4 of, but I like having the 3 because it feels at a comfortable base. So Tideline Dragon is very much a key part of this deck, especially when it comes to playing the Masque. When you Persona Ride, it's an axe skill. When you Persona Ride, you Soul Blast 1, you choose another unit, and that unit on rearguard and your Tideline Dragon each get 10,000 power each. That's all it can do, but it very clearly helps when you've got cards on the rearguard that are going to be attacking more than once. And then mixing that with Persona Ride and triggers and Dragon Tree markers, you're hitting potentially between 30 and 40k straight off the bat when you're attacking with this unit. Next grade 2, I'm running 4 copies of Margaret. Now, Margaret is the set 10 cycle card for Stokea, but in this deck it helps a fair more deal. So when you discard Margaret for riding into the ride deck, you Soul Blast 1 card and you put Margaret to the bottom of the deck and you draw a card. Especially for going second, it's a double draw and it helps a lot. When you call Margaret to rearguard, if you Persona Road that turn, you counterblast 1 and your opponent's rearguards cannot intercept when you attack and they do not restand when you end your turn. So you're forcing your opponent to have 1 attack, maybe 2 if they can stand rearguards or if they can stand themselves their own Vanguard. So you're making a deck go from a 5, potentially 6, straight down to a 1 or maybe 2 attack deck. So it helps tons, and I mean tons. Next, we're running 3 copies of Dragon Tree Wretch Depth of Welleth. Depth of Welleth is your main searcher for your 1 copy of the Masque of High Dragram, and obviously you like your Dragon Tree markers, especially with Dragon Tree markers in this deck. So I only run 3 of in this deck because 3 feels comfortable. If I was going to run the 4, I'd happily swap out a copy of Margaret, put her down to 3, and put Dragon Tree Wretch up to 4, just to capitalise off searching for the Masque of High Dragram, because I do only run the 1. But so far, I haven't had a game where I've not run into the Masque because of this Dragon Tree Wretch. So it's helpful. It's very, very helpful. On to grade 1s, I'm running 4 copies of Forest Protecting Hunter Prosper. Prosper is very much a key piece in this deck. Prosper is very much Lianorn specific. I did have 2, I'm running the 4 now because 4 just seems a lot better. So Prosper's skill is when he boosts, he gives the unit in front of it 5,000 power, and that's not once per turn. So if you boosted him with Lianorn, he gives the rearguard in front of it 5,000 power, but if you stood him with Lianorn and he boosts again, you're giving the unit another 5,000 power, so that's 10k. His other skill is also when he's placed on rearguard by a card's ability, so be it by Lianorn's draw and discard or draw and call, or by calling it back from the drop zone with Lianorn masks or other cards, you soul charge 1. So soul charging in this deck gives you a lot more room for skills, and it helps a lot, and having him on rearguard is just that much helpful. I'm next running 3 copies of Diantha. Diantha is another MVP in this deck. When you have 2 or more grade 1s on the back row rearguard, she gains 5,000 power, so she's a 13k booster, and when she is placed, you may counterblast 1, and if you do, you can choose a grade 1 or less from your drop zone and call it back to rearguard. So if you can call it Prosper out, you soul charge, you get your power boosting, you can call it Self and use that 1 skill to call something else, so you fill your back field, you fill your back row up. So there's a lot of choices you can do with Diantha, but running her at 3 is, I feel, is the best combo in this deck. Running her at 4 is a bit too much because I don't think you need the 4. Last normal unit for the grade 1s is 1 copy of Amelia. Now Amelia is a grade 1 that is specific to Lianorn masks. She is a counter charger, but again she is specific to Lianorn masks. So when she boosts, if you have a Lianorn masks on your Vanguard, she gains 5,000 power, but then at the end of the battle, you Soul Blast 1 and retire Amelia, and then you get to counter charge. Now mixing her with cards like Diantha, you can call her back and you can just constantly counter charge, or you can use Lianorn Mask skill to call her back. So she's very, very helpful to get onto the field a fair few times, maybe 2, maybe 3 times a game. But then you get more counter charge, so she's very, very helpful, and she's a 13k booster when you're on the Masque. Last grade 1 for PGs. PGs are just PGs. Can't really say much more about PGs because they're PGs. You can run the Elementaria Sanctitude and swap out a copy of a PG for it, but again, I just like having the 4 PGs because it helps a lot, and there's nothing much more to say about those. Triggers wise, I'm on obviously the 1 copy of the Stokea Overtrigger, especially in this deck when you're running the Stokea OT. If you're multi-attacking and you're getting more power off, you're wanting to run this because this one does everything in the book. So it fronts, it crits, it heals, it draws, it gets to 100 million power, so you're drawing 2 cards and you're just getting more power on top. I run 4 effect crits because the effect crits are very much needed in this deck. They're only 4k boosters, but then again they go into soul, so they help. And on top of that, I'm running 4 copies of the generic trial deck Lianorn crit because a crit in this deck helps a lot more than I initially realised. I was going to run fronts and maybe 7 crits, but the 8 crits helps a lot more. 4 heals, I'm running 4 bog standard heals. I am still debating switching out 1 copy of the Sylvan Thorn heals for a copy of one of the effect heals. Not sure which one I want to run yet, but it'll just be a case of testing it out and coming up to a decision when I get there. And last but not least, 3 draw triggers. Draw triggers in this deck are a lot more helpful than fronts, I believe, mostly because you're going to be having a front row 9 times out of 10 when it comes to running the deck anyway, and you're going to have enough shield because you're going to be drawing enough cards, especially with early game Lianorn with triple drive, and then the Masque is you're getting more attacks off anyway, so more triggers, more attacks, more cards in hand, a lot more helpful. So that was the deck profile, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Hopefully with the next support for Lianorn masque coming soon, we will be, well, for Lianorn in general, I will be bringing more videos in, but we will be getting more with some more game videos and more deck profiles, and maybe some update videos for Lianorn in the future. So as always, guys, make sure to like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.